Hello and welcome back to GrowthStep. Today we're launching our super exciting series, GrowthChat, where we're going to be speaking to entrepreneurs, investors, founders, anyone from the startup world who can share some knowledge with us, which we can learn from. So today we're going to be kicking off our series talking to Sketchlabs. So without further ado, let's kick things off and meet Sketchlabs. Hi Mark, welcome to GrowthChat and welcome to being the first ever guest on GrowthChat. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being part of it. So I think before we jump into the nitty gritty of what Sketchlabs is and what you guys do, it'd be great to kind of hear about your background and how you found yourself being a co-founder of Sketchlabs.
Yeah, sure. So I've got a very weird background compared to most of the generic people in the industry. So I actually started my career off in music, walking a famous DJ's dog. And then from there, I actually managed to wangle my way into radio presenting and actually became a producer for one of the largest radio stations in the UK.
Oh, wow.
And then I then dabbled in the military, and my whole career just jumps from one mental career to the other. So
yeah, so from walking a DJ's dog to the military to now a co-founder of Sketchlab, that definitely is an interesting history.
But I'd just like to say I did have some previous experience in property before setting up this company.
You did? Yeah, I suppose that probably helped.
I know what I'm doing.
With it. That's good. So with that, let's then jump into what is Sketchlabs? What do you guys actually do?
Yeah, sure. So we're an office broker. Short, simple answer is we find companies, startups, or larger companies, office space in London. So we solely operate in London at the moment, but we've got plans to expand across the UK and hopefully, overseas. But basically, essentially what we do is if a company needs to find a new office or their first ever office, they'll come to us and they'll say, can you help us find what we're looking for? We don't know necessarily what we're looking for, and we'll consult them and then we'll find them a great space for them to take.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So basically you help people, you match companies to office space and help them find the right one for them. Now, for startups, because GrowthStep is focused on startups especially. So why would a startup want to use a broker and pay an extra broker fee when they could just go direct to a WeWork or someone like that and talk to them?
Because we'll save you time and money. That's the easiest answer, honestly. The entire process of actually getting an office, signing for an office, searching for an office, viewing an office, it's not a quick process. It can be, but the more people you have working with you and helping you, the quicker it will be and the better the results will be. If you go at it by yourself, then chances are you're going to be inundated by people trying to call you, because you'll have to approach every landlord, of which there are hundreds in London. So you'll find actually it's an admin nightmare, and the process, in my opinion, should actually be something somewhat enjoyable. But unfortunately, it's not. So if you go to a broker, what we'll do is we'll take all that admin off your hands. We'll do it on your behalf. We'll search for the right offices on your behalf. We'll book in your viewings, and we also act on a confidential basis, which is what makes us, different from our competitors.
What does that mean? So when you say act on a confidential basis?
Yeah. So I used to come from the provider side, and I used to get loads of calls and emails from brokers sending me their clients, which is fine. But what they then do, which I think is wrong, is they allow the provider or the landlord to contact their client. So actually, it then means that if you wanted to get help from a broker, it's ironic because the broker is then actually making the process a lot harder for you. Whereas we don't allow any third parties to contact our clients, solely because it means that our clients can just get back to running their own business and we just do the search on our behalf. So it's really important.
That really makes sense. Yeah. So I've been through a similar situation where I've seen a Facebook ad, put in my details there. and then received calls morning to night, emails all day
Yeah.
until I answer and literally just say I'm not interested. Even when I say I'm not interested, I will continue to get calls from them, follow up
Yeah.
emails, and it
It's
is.
just
So you kind of deal with all that. So instead of dealing with
yeah.
4, 5, or even 6 of these people, I'm just dealing with you, and then you're dealing with all of this for me. And I mean, I suppose to a certain extent, they don't necessarily even know who. They don't need to know who the company is.
Well, for them to accept the actual lead, they do,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise you'll have a lot of competition within the brokers. So the
Yeah,
brokers have to submit their leads for them to be accepted by the provider. But what
got it.
we don't allow the providers to do, and it's in our terms and conditions, that the providers then contact our client. So we make that very clear.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then let's get back to the fees part. So again, with startups and tight budgets, so paying a broker an additional fee. So what can startups expect to pay brokers as a fee?
Yeah.
And how does your business model really work with?
Yeah, sure. So it depends on the lease first. There's two types. There's a conventional lease, and then there's a flexible or service type lease.
Mhm.
So we don't charge our clients anything if they decide to take a lease in a serviced office type environment. A serviced office is essentially WeWork. Whereas if they go with a private lease, then that's more traditional. And imagine you're renting a house, you'd go to Savills or Knight Frank. It's the same with commercial property, and they would charge you a fee. So we take 10% of the contractual value from the providers if we place you with WeWork, for example. But if we put you in a conventional lease, then we charge a percentage, which is
On that?
negotiated with the client. Yeah.
So that's really interesting then. So for a startup, let's say I'm a six person startup and I'm looking to move into a WeWork as in the example, then I can use you to do all the heavy lifting and research for me, and literally and not pay you guys and get the same or a better offer.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that seems like a
Yeah.
no-brainer to
It's
me.
a
Literally,
no-brainer.
yeah. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I just assumed that you guys would be taking a fee, but that's great that you guys don't. You guys will make a fee
No.
from the actual provider.
There are brokers out there
Yeah.
who will charge you a fee even if you
Mhm.
move into a flexible office, which I think is just totally wrong in my opinion. But we
Yeah.
really saw a gap in the market, and this is why we've created Sketchlabs, because we believe that services should be free. We don't operate like a trading floor. We don't have targets like a traditional broker, which means that we won't be salesy, and we'll just consult you through the process, and we'll take our time with it if you want to take your time.
Mhm.
Because I used to hate working at a provider where I have to follow up my clients every Monday morning saying, are you still interested in an office? And you shouldn't, like, it shouldn't be like that. Our process is just totally different to the traditional, brokers, purely because we're people person, people,
People.
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 That's the one. And
Yeah.
we're focused on longevity of, having great clients rather than just sell them an office.
Yeah. No, that absolutely makes sense. And that kind of leads me on to, so is what you guys do unique? Is what you do unique, and kind of if it's not, then how do you stand out from your competitors?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so we actually did a podcast with Excel really recently, and they called us
Mm-hmm.
the coolest cats in co-working, which I think is
Yeah.
testament to our company, because we're too young. So it's myself and Laura who founded this company. We like to think that we're quite cool and trendy. And, we're a startup, so we love working with startups. Startups like working with us. But what really sets us apart from our competitors is purely the process and the fact that we're not here to really focus on numbers. We're here to get you the best possible, office for your environment and get a referral first. If we can get referrals first, the figures will follow. That's our ethos, essentially.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've actually been through the process with Mark as well, and it was a really, I wouldn't even call it a sales process, because it was such a pleasant process. We were driving around London in a black cab with your dog Heathcliff sitting there as well. All the receptionists at every co-working space that we went to just immediately said, "Can I please just take care of the dog while you guys do whatever you need to do?" So yeah, I mean,
Great.
that experience for me was really great, and it's great to see that you guys have that ethos and that way of going about business.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think you found us a great office as well as you actually found my dad a great office.
Yeah, we've done 2 offices for you
Yeah,
now.
we've done
Yeah,
two of the things, which is great.
yeah,
And yeah, let's talk about that actually, because you have some quite amazing referral figures. So, what is your
yeah,
kind of acquisition strategy at the moment?
yeah. So we're 80% driven by referrals, which is crazy. But outside of the referrals, we attend events. At the moment, we can't, obviously, because of the pandemic. But before that, we don't do any advertising, purely because it just doesn't work for us. We don't have the budget to do that at the moment. We're a small startup, and we don't want to turn into a company like our competitors who literally throw millions just to be on the front page of Google. We don't
Yeah.
want to be that type of brokerage. What we do want to be is, consulting our clients face to face. So that's what we do. So we'll go to events, we'll find people, we'll inquire if they're looking for a new office, we'll build a relationship there. And if not, just referrals are amazing because
Yeah. I
you'd
mean,
much
eighty
rather go
percent,
through someone.
eighty
Yeah,
percent referral rate is
yeah,
amazing. I mean,
it's good.
I think that's one of my new goals now, to have a business which has 80% referral rate.
Yeah.
That's an
Well, we reward,
outstanding number.
I mean, it's so important to us that we reward everyone that gives us a referral that converts
Mhm.
into a deal. And as I said before, like the referrals are so much more important at this stage in our careers because the figures and the money will come second.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. And so with that as well, do you generally work with smaller companies, larger companies? You work across the board? Just more asking about startups. So if I'm a one-man band, can I work with you? If I'm a six-man band, can I work with you?
Yeah, anybody can work with us. So we've done deals with a sole individual who ran her own company. We've done a deal which was, haven't done it. We're doing a deal which is 12,000 square foot in Battersea Power Station.
Yeah.
And we've also worked on acquisitions of £50 million plus annual rent, which is crazy.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
you're really across the board then, right from your
Yeah,
one
really
person
totally across the board.
all
Yeah.
the way. Perfect. And so let's talk a bit now about COVID-19. So obviously that's the elephant in the room with co-working and stuff at the moment. So firstly, how's that impacted your business?
To be honest, it's been, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's been a real tough time.
Mhm.
The entire property industry, commercial, I don't know about residential, but commercial offices have just dived. But it's to be expected. I would assume it's probably quite similar for recruitment and those sorts of service type industries. But for us, yeah, it's been difficult. But now we've seen that our competitors have hugely dropped their advertising spend, which is really good news for us because this is now a buyer's market if you can afford to. So if you have the cash to spend, which is what we're doing now, we're trying to get our name out there. So it's the first time we've done a little bit of advertising properly, but not just to get on the front page of Google. We're thinking outside the box, and we're not just trying to send an advert. We're trying to change the message
Mhm.
because after this pandemic, the office industry is just going to completely evolve into something new, and the flexible office market is going to be what everyone's wanting to turn to purely because it's flexible.
Yeah.
So that it's safer essentially, and it gives them the freedom to do as they wish.
That's really interesting. So almost now, because demand for office space is low, if people were before COVID-19 hit looking for an office space, they could still potentially get a great deal now for when the lockdown lifts.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. I
Yeah.
mean, the prices are amazing. You'd expect to. I'm not going to say prices, but
Yeah.
imagine you want to, buy a Lamborghini, but you want to pay for the Fiat,
Yeah.
essentially, what most people do. You can actually probably reach that level of Fiat if you wanted it at the moment. So
Yeah.
there are some really good. As a terrible analogy, but like a comparison, but
No,
um,
I think that makes perfect
yeah,
sense. So
it's
yeah,
really
basically,
good fun.
if people
Yeah,
were looking for an office space, they should consider, if, like as you said, if they have the cash,
yeah,
to look at getting a deal now. And I suppose even in the contract, they could put in something that it starts when the government lifts the ban and allows people to
exactly.
go back to work.
Because most people that I speak to who, I'm really trying to encourage startups who do have the cash, and I know a couple who do, that maybe want to move into office now, but they can't because of government restrictions. And then they come back to me and say, well, why would I want to sign a contract if I can't move into the office? And that's what we're proposing, that you can sign the contract, but the start date will start when you're allowed to go back into work and things, go back to normal. And I know that the providers are happy to, cooperate with them. That would never happen if, without this pandemic.
Yeah.
If you sign a piece of paper, you're expected to move in 3 months,
3 months
after signing that contract, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, and yeah, I think it's a great idea if especially if startups are strapped for cash and
Yeah.
and we're looking for a deal to move their team into an office. Maybe they've all been working from
Exactly.
home.
It's just
So yeah,
giving you the freedom to do what you want, rather as before, if you wanted something, you have to do. I mean, the providers are very, very accommodating. They're brilliant companies, but you have to find that leeway. Whereas now, they really, really want the business. So everyone's, there's a huge negotiation to have.
yeah, makes sense. And so obviously startups can't view offices now, but so I should say businesses can't view offices now. When they do go and view offices, what kind of things should they be looking for in an office? How do they know an office is right for them?
I mean, first of all, visually, is it visually appealing? What exactly are you looking for architecturally? Like, do you want something modern? Do you want something old? Do you want a WeWork environment where it's all about networking and socializing? And they've got ping pong tables, they've got, kegs. It's like a university campus.
Yeah.
Or if you go to more of a Regis vibe, then it's a slightly more corporate. So what we like to do is consult our clients face to face if they're happy to do so, and really find out what their company is all about. So then we can match the building to their ethos and how they work. But other things they should be looking for is, location wise, what's going to be really good? Where are their clients based? Where are their employees based? What's going to be the best hub for them? And then in terms of, there's certain things that will catch people out. And this is why I think it's really good to use a boutique broker like ourselves, because we know exactly what's included in contracts and what's not. So we always make sure to ask the right questions, just to make sure you're not going to be spending X amount over your bill, which you thought, a serviced office, at the end of the day, you'd think everything's included, but sometimes it's not. So we make sure to ask those questions in front of our clients.
And you did that for me as well, because I remember going on tours with
Yeah.
you, and I'd walk into an amazing office space and just be dazzled by it, not asking any questions, just asking about how does that coffee machine work, rather than the important stuff, which is things like
Well, you
how
say
fast
coffee
is the
machines,
Wi
yeah.
how
Coffee,
fast the Wi-Fi,
coffee
yeah.
is, Jesus, I mean, in offices, coffee is what costs a fortune. So
Yeah.
there's one provider in particular who like to catch people out. I love them and I do place people with them, but they do charge an obscene amount per head on coffee. So I've got a friend who's in one of their buildings, and he spends around £400 per month. I think it's £300 to £400 per month just on coffee for his employees, which he didn't realise wasn't in the contract.
So they charge them separately. So they pay their service fee, and then they're charging them on top of that for
exactly.
coffee, and then
but
biscuits, I
every
imagine, not
provider is
included as
totally
well.
different,
Yeah.
I should add. Yeah, because
Okay, that's really. Again, I would never think to ask if I walked into a co-working space, do I have to pay to use this coffee machine? So
well,
again,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, great to have you guys
mean,
there asking those kind of questions for us.
Exactly. Some include them, some don't. Everyone's totally different.
Yeah. I mean, I was in the Paddington WeWork in WeWork Labs, and there was everything there was included in the price. So you had all the beers, all the coffees, they put on events, and that. So I found that really good, which is the fee was a little bit higher than I would have expected, but for what you got, it was really good value. I felt. But yeah, I mean, even viewing that, I would have assumed, because it was all there, that it would be included. So again, great to have expertise in that area.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then let's talk a little bit about the pricing. So how much can startups kind of expect to pay for a hot desk versus a private office? Because you guys focus in London, right? So how does the price vary?
Yeah, it's really across the board. So if I throw some figures at you, so the most cost-effective solution we've seen is £200 for hot desking. That's very, very good. And they're an awesome provider. They're called Working From in Southwark. Amazing building. I think it's £250 or £200 for a hot desk, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
But then you've got, people such as WeWork and the Office Group, and they're around the £500 to £700 per person mark. You've really got to look at like what's included, because it's not just about the price you pay; it's the value that's brought with your monthly subscription. I would say WeWork might be slightly more expensive, but in terms of socializing and the events they put on and the daily things they put on, like there's daily massages and some providers that some buildings, sorry, which is all included. It's amazing. And then they actually have mentors that come in. So there's a great deal of value that some providers can bring to the table. So don't always just look at the figures, but I totally understand why a company would, obviously for budgeting reasons. But if you look towards like the higher end, I think the most I've seen for a one-person office is £2,500 per month, plus your VAT, which is 20%.
For a one person office, 2.5
Yeah,
grand.
yeah.
I
But
think that's
that's
more than my rent here.
yeah, yeah. But it was used for a James Bond set, believe it or not. So the
All right.
architecture is amazing. So sometimes you are literally paying for the building and how it looks. Sometimes you're paying for the facilities. But I would say on average, expect to pay £500 per person for either co-working or an office.
An office. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so with that, so obviously hot desking is more flexible, I assume, with coming and going and your contract lengths. Is there sort of wiggle room on the length of contracts that you have with hot desks and private offices?
Yeah, everything's always negotiable. So if I start with hot desking, there will be a little bit of niggle room. It won't be a lot, but you can still negotiate. And over time, if you're a startup or a sole trader, self-employed, 50 quid a month, 100 quid a month actually makes a big difference over a year, because that's something you could be spending on advertising or whatever you need marketing wise, or, for a larger company, then that could equivalent, the savings could equivalent to someone's salary. So, but there's 100%, yeah, you can negotiate on anything.
So with that, so with pricing as well, do providers have flexibility on their pricing? Or is it just this is the rate, take it or leave it?
No, they will definitely negotiate with you. I mean, they will do what they need to be commercially viable, but essentially they're there to sell space and everything's negotiable. What makes us different than our competitors, actually, which is a really interesting thought. The brokers might not always get you the best deal for you. They'll get you the best deal for themselves, because if you've got Jack working at X broker, in the city, he wants to be making a good commission for himself every month. I don't know whether he loves that industry. He may well do, but for me, I'm passionate about this job, this industry, and we will get the best deal for the client first, and then whatever commission we get, that's brilliant. But what makes me happy is that the client has got exactly what they set out to get in the first place.
Yeah, and I guess when customers come to you, one of the important questions is, what is your budget? And then you guys will go out and present them, I guess, with a few options in that budget.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we do like to, if someone says I've got a budget of £2,000 a month for a 4-person office, we'll still show them, £3,000 per month, because it's still negotiable and we can still negotiate down to their bottom line, essentially. But yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for that. And now what we'll do is we had some questions sent in to us. We've answered a few of them as we've gone through, so I'll avoid those ones. But let me read out some of these other questions that got sent in for you guys. So the first is, it's probably a yes or no question. Do you pay VAT on rent?
Yes, you pay 20%, which 20%. Is added on top of your monthly rent. But obviously you can deduct that. So
yeah, if you're VAT registered, you just claim it back, basically, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then let's see what else we have here. We talked about price already. Oh yeah, here we go. So contract lengths, not contract length, so deposits. So the question is, deposits are normally a big barrier to moving into a co-working space. Do they have wiggle room on lower deposits? So typically I've seen they ask for 2 to 3 months up front. Are there any providers who will be flexible on that, or not even ask for a deposit at all?
Yeah. There's one provider I can think of who they don't take a deposit, but it's industry standard to take 2 months rent deposit and then you pay 1 month rent up front. So you're looking at 3 months just to get going. So it is a hefty amount, you know,
Yeah.
but fortunately that's the way it is, and there is no negotiation on that.
On that part. So if you're looking to move into to a co-working space, you should budget to have at least 3 months of rent available, because that obviously can throw people off when they start looking for an office space and realize, right, I have to pay 3 months up front. Okay, that's super useful. And now I've got two more light-hearted questions for you, and then we'll sort of end things off. So the first is, what is the weirdest thing that you've heard about happening in a co-working space?
Oh, I think amongst the numerous dog fights that you see in some providers, because some buildings are obviously dog friendly, which is good fun.
Yeah.
But obviously sometimes you get a couple of mutts that are out to, you know, dig each other out, and whilst you're queuing for your coffee, your free coffee. But otherwise, no, there's Paris Hilton was DJing at the Argyle Club's building in the Michelin building in South Kensington once, and she didn't turn the power on. So she was just pretending to DJ with no sound until someone actually tapped her on the shoulder and said, you might want to turn.
It's basically the lip syncing version of DJ.
Yeah. I don't know who booked her. I don't know what event that was, but that was very weird.
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be quite strange. And then on the topic of dogs as well. So we spoke a bit about Heathcliff before. So what does Heathcliff do in the company?
Oh yeah, he does our finances, which explains why we are bankrupt. We're not bankrupt. No, yeah, he's a very good dog. He's a very naughty dog. He snores a lot and he's terrible at maths. But what I will say is that if you are starting your own company and you have a dog, by all means, take that dog with you to work, because the amount of business that I've got from Heathcliff, I'm not saying you should just go and buy dogs just for business reasons, but he's helped. People love coming and talking to you, and then obviously you say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I've made so many friends. So, and you loved it when we took the dog in the car. I'm pretty sure I even asked you to take him for a little walk whilst we were going
absolutely.
to the office.
I mean, I think you had a hard time prying him out of my hands at the end of it, but it was just a great experience for me, being able to have a chilled afternoon with looking at office spaces, with a dog. All of them that we saw were dog friendly. So again, if you guys are looking for office space, then definitely go with Mark, because he has a dog.
Thank you. I'll get you a great deal.
You get you a great deal. So with that, Mark, is there anything else you wanna add before we tell people how to sort of get in contact with you?
No. I mean, if you do want to get in contact with me, then please add me on LinkedIn, Mark Knops, or Laura Fullerton, my co-founder. But please go on our website, www.sketchlabs.co.uk, or send me a message, mark@sketchlabs.co.uk.
Perfect. And I've used them and they're fantastic. So if you're looking for office space, even during these times, then give Mark a shout, and I think he'll be more than happy to help you find your dream office. Well, brilliant. Mark, thank you so much for being the first person on the show. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll do a check back in video soon.
Yeah, brilliant.
Perfect.
Thanks, Jake.
Well, thanks, Mark. Cheers.